you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to episode number 63 of Tell You What, the podcast. My name is Mike, and our guest today is Chicago-based musician and songwriter Elizabeth Moen. I had a blast talking with Elizabeth. She is funny, thoughtful, honest, and has an absolute overflowing reservoir of musical talent. As you will hear, Elizabeth was born and raised in Iowa, but has made Chicago her musical home for a number of years now. She has a few albums under her belt, including the excellent Wherever You Aren't, released in 2022. She's been working on her highly anticipated next record with producer Spencer Tweedy, another member of the Chicago music scene. Aside from his producing work, Spencer is also the drummer for the musical project Waxahatchee. Elizabeth's talents have allowed her to write and record songs that cross musical boundaries: folk, rock, blues, jazz, and so forth. Her voice is a true instrument. You can hear some of the diverse nature of her work in just the few clips of the songs we discuss. So it was interesting to hear her speak about finding her voice, the path of discovery she has been on. We seem to have been lucky enough to have this conversation at what is perhaps a turning point in Elizabeth's creative life. She quite eloquently discusses how her writing process has evolved dramatically over the last year or so, and how through working with her production partner Spencer, she is discovering perhaps the true expression of her amazing vocal talent. I very much look forward to seeing where Elizabeth's musical journey next takes her, and in particular, hearing the next batch of music. In the meantime, be sure to check out her summer touring schedule, available at her website. Elizabeth mentions she will be playing some of her new music at these shows. Quick shout out to Georgia Greenberg for helping to put this conversation together. Much appreciated. So now, please enjoy this Tell You What discussion with Elizabeth Moen. There's the train. This would be a nice intro.
It almost sounds more like a plane.
Yeah. All right, Elizabeth Moen, welcome to Tell You What, the podcast. Thank you for joining us here in the Tell You What Epiplex. We're up on the 50th floor. What do you think of the facilities?
It's great. It's a great view.
Yeah.
Up here this high.
It's amazing, isn't it? You see the golf course?
It's beautiful.
What's interesting is we were able to get the golf course up to the 50th floor. It's quite a feat of engineering. No job too small for the Tell You What Epiplex. Anyway, welcome. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You
currently live in Chicago. You drove here a mile and a half. It took you about an hour to get here, right?
Yeah.
I appreciate the effort. But you were born and raised in Iowa.
It's true.
Small town?
Super small town.
How small?
Like 800 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet the Chicago music scene feels just as small sometimes.
In what way?
I feel like I've lived in Chicago for like 4.5 years almost. And yeah, I feel like once you're like more integrated in a scene or a community, it just ends up feeling small again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that comforting?
Yeah, I think 99% comforting.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So growing up, music was always important to you from when you were a small child?
Yeah. I always loved singing. And my grandpa could tell I was really inclined towards like guitar-centered music.
Mm-hmm.
Not guitar-centered music. And so he gifted me a guitar when I was, I think, in 5th grade, maybe 6th grade. And I just kind of taught myself, just listening to records over and over again. I would like try and mimic it, whatever was happening.
So were you using YouTube or anything like that?
Then eventually when we got a computer, I started using YouTube to like learn how to read tabs and stuff. But I still can't read music. But tabs, it's like the same thing.
Yes.
Pretty much.
But when you first started mimicking the radio, you were just doing it by ear?
Yeah, just by ear.
Yeah. That's probably pretty good training.
It was, yeah. I still, a goal of mine in the next couple years is to get better with like music theory. Mm-hmm. Not full on, because I have some friends who are like, it can actually be a little debilitating for writing, because it's like when you know too much theory, you know where things are supposed to go.
This chord's not in that key or whatever.
Yeah.
But no theory.
No theory yet.
Yeah.
No theory yet.
Pretty impressive considering your skills.
Oh, thank you. It's just kind of just winging it. I feel like I've just been winging it, but it's worked out so far.
It certainly seems to be working. You mentioned singing. So did you sing at school, church? Were you in organized singing operations?
I was in choir and show choir.
Aha. Show choir.
Show choir. I was in musical theater.
Right.
I was in plays. And then I was in speech. Then I was in debate. Then I was a mathlete.
Mathlete. I was also a mathlete.
You were a mathlete?
Yes.
I only did it for 1 year.
I could tell.
And then I was really good at math, and then I was a foreign exchange student for a year. And then I came back and was really bad at math. I like completely...
What did they do to you? Where were you?
I was in France, and I was in like a specialized school.
Metric system.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe I got a little out of sorts. Yeah. But yeah, I was in this specialized class where we only did like a half hour of math
in France.
A week.
Yeah. And that was the end of your math career.
Pretty much. And then by senior year, I was like cheating. I was fully cheating in calculus. Haven't said that out loud.
That is quite a tale.
Yeah. I went from mathlete to cheater. To full on cheater.
All right.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, music.
Let's move on. Mm-hmm. So you sound like you spend a lot of time on stage in various formats as a singer and that kind of thing, high school plays. But when did you first start bringing your guitar and singing songs on a stage?
There was a talent show in high school, and I played a CeeLo Green song.
Wow. How'd it go?
No, it went great. Yeah. It's just like funny picturing it now. And then I would sing covers in my dorm room in college.
With your guitar?
With my guitar. And then a friend of mine, I was working a restaurant job, and a friend of mine was like, hey, there's an open mic. You should go sing covers at it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. And then I did that, and it felt really good. And then by chance, the booking agent or the booker of the venue was like, hey, if you eventually have your own songs, we would book you here. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of encouraged me to start songwriting, because I was like, oh, well, I like being on stage. I like playing, but it seems like if I want to play at this venue I really like, then I better write a song.
Yeah.
And so the end of my senior year of college, I finally started songwriting, but only so I could play.
Yes.
Live.
Interesting motivation.
I think I always wanted to write songs, but I was afraid of like, there was like this little rat in me that was like, oh,
that's, you know what that is. They heard you cheated in calculus.
Yeah. They're coming to get me. We can't believe you cheated. Yeah. It's okay.
So you didn't believe you could write songs, maybe?
Yeah, I think I didn't think I was smart enough to do it. Mm-hmm. I didn't think I was cool enough to do it. And then I was like, oh, if I try and do it, I'm going to sound like a douche. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a pretty common.
I think that's very common.
Yeah, and then eventually I was like, I had befriended some poets who were in the writers' workshop because I went to Iowa.
That's like the writers' workshop of the country,
of
right?
The world,
Of the world, yeah.
It's and I had befriended some of them. I was dating one of them, and they were like, I did undergrad for film, or I did undergrad for business, and now I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a poet in this fancy workshop. If I can write a poem, you can write a song. And then I was like, okay,
That's great.
fair enough. And then I wrote a song, and it felt good. It felt really, I think it was like the first time I felt like, oh, I'm doing something that feels right to do.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
When you started writing songs, did you then find you had a lot to say, or like there were a lot of ideas, or was it more of a gradual kind of finding your voice thing?
Totally. Yeah, great question. I think finding my voice has been very gradual.
Mm-hmm.
Like looking now, it's like I've been writing for 8 years.
Yeah.
And I'm about to burp, and you can take this out. Or you can leave it. Honestly, you can leave it in. If you want to leave it in.
We'll see what our spiritual advisor has to say.
Spiritual advisor.
You met her earlier.
Shout out for the yogurt, by the way.
There you go.
Yeah, I think once I finally did it, the first like EP I put out was just legit the first 8 songs I had ever written.
Wow. So...
And some of them weren't good. Most of them weren't good.
We're not good.
No, but it was because I finally was doing it, and I just wanted to put something out.
Yeah. So how long after the first song was written did this EP come out?
Few months.
Wow. So that's okay. You sat down to write your first song, and a few months later, you had 8 songs.
And they were recorded, and
Yeah.
I had the show booked. But again, I did it because it finally was pouring out.
Yeah.
And it finally gave me an excuse to book a show.
Right.
But anyways, I had a bunch of friends from these different restaurants and bars I worked at, and my, kids in my class, and a lot of workshop people. Like, first show sold out just because of all these like friends I had made around Iowa City, and it just felt right. And I love those first songs I wrote, but they definitely, like, when I listen back to them, I'm like, oh, you were so stoked to finally do this, huh?
Yeah.
The first song I ever wrote, though, I still feel like is really good. And that one I still play
Oh, you do?
at shows.
That's the first song you ever wrote.
Yeah, it's called Songbird.
Yeah, well, that is a great song. Yeah,
Thank you.
It's
that. Yeah, that one just, I feel like that was a good way to start the track I'm on.
So when you were younger, singing in show choir and doing all these things, had you ever considered that people do this as a vocation, singing or performing or writing songs? It never kind of crossed your mind?
No, because I was still, there's some people in my family who are great singers,
Mm-hmm.
but like in the car, my dad has a great, like, billowing, like, voice.
Yeah.
But no one ever pursued art. Most people in my family are teachers
Mm-hmm.
or doctors, and I'm definitely not this because I can't think of the word. They are, oh my God, they're professors.
That's a tough one to come up with. I'll give you some
Is
slack there.
But
So there was no role model.
No, and like no role models like from Iowa but that I knew of, because I was in this small town, no music scene. I had no one to play music with that wasn't show choir music, which, that's great.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until the end of college where I finally started going to like local shows and like meeting people, and finally at like parties having the confidence to be like, I'd, meet someone and they'd be like, oh yeah, I play drums. And then I just like swallow that fear of being a douche and be like, oh, well, we should meet up sometime. I just started like writing some songs. Would you want to meet up and play on these songs with me?
Right. So now you write these songs, and you were talking about how good it felt. So before, you didn't have an image of this being a vocation. Now here you are. You've written 8 songs. You record them. You play shows. People are coming to see you. Must have been a pretty good feeling, like this life now has opened itself up to you.
Yeah, it felt very natural. It felt I was starting to get booked more and more shows, and like the first shows were like, background noise at restaurants,
Yep.
a lot of brewery gigs, but like it was fun. And like people were starting to like be like, oh, when's your next like show where you're not the background noise?
Yeah.
And it's like, and then it just started to develop. And then eventually, you know, years later, I finally got my booking agent, who's been amazing. And I just kind of fell into it, but it was tough. You know, I lived out of my van for a couple years, and, you know, a way I could make it work was having no bills to pay.
Yes.
You know, so it was like, if I can live very frugally, and looking back, I'm like, whoa, you really did that. And I still do it a little bit now, but like, you do it to make it work. I just kind of fell in love with making music. It just kind of happened. It's like you can't control when you're going to fall in love.
Yes.
It's like, that's how I felt with music, is like, I was not going to college for that. I never thought I could do it professionally. I never thought anyone would want to hear me sing a thing that I wrote. And then it just kind of happened. And now it's like this very symbiotic thing where, honestly, the last like 6-7 months, I haven't played a lot live, and I feel like restless.
Yeah.
I've been feeling real, like it's a love that I kind of need now, almost.
You found your soulmate.
Yeah, truly. That's
Yeah.
it is
pretty
how
good.
it feels, for sure.
We're going to get back into that. I want to talk about your process, your writing process. And along the way, if it's all right with you, I want to touch upon the idea of variety or diversity or versatility in your work. It comes up when I was going through your stuff in different ways. You have different styles of songs, different ways you use your voice, your guitar, the variety within your songs, your different experiences as a performer. So we're kind of maybe touch on some of that.
Great.
As a theme. But tell me about your process. Are you always writing songs? Are there periods of creativity? Do you have a regular practice, or are you waiting for inspiration? How has it been working?
Pretty chaotic,
Yeah.
honestly. When I first started writing, I think the first 5 years, it was just happening all the time. And it was quantity over quality,
Yes.
but then I would sift through. But it was like almost a song a day, but not forced. It was just happening.
Wow.
And then it slowly stopped being that way. And then I started something new where I was like, oh, what if I just started writing down ideas in my notes app? And so then I started just piling up thoughts and like voice memos of like melody ideas. And then I started to do this.
But before that,
it was just this, it would just happen. I would just
Sit
wake
down
up
with
and
a
then
guitar.
boom, it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But now, since then, the last few years, it's like I sit down and I sift through things. And then there's usually one little idea, like one line or one melody that is the beginning of like this compiling of things.
Yep.
But then lately, up until actually yesterday, I kept writing. The last 6 months, every few weeks I would sit down and finally write a song, and it was bad. And not bad, but like I knew it wasn't
Wasn't going to make the cut.
no, there's just something wrong about it. But there was little good things in it. And then every few weeks it would just change, and it was like evolve into this thing. And then finally on Wednesday night, I was in the shower and I was humming this thing, and then I was like, oh fuck, that's it. And then I like hopped out of the shower. I like didn't put conditioner in my hair. I was like so stoked. And I played my piano, which I never play because I still don't know how to play it. But I know enough to know like where
Middle C.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I started playing that in my room, and then little bits of these bad songs from the last 6 months just like combined into this song.
This is just this past week we're talking about.
This is yesterday.
Yesterday,
I
okay.
wrote it, and I was like, oh my God, thank God I finally got it. And I know there's like this feeling in my gut that's always been right of if a song is going to be good or not.
Yeah.
And like that happened yesterday finally. Because I've had so many like
false starts.
False starts with songs for especially the last 6 months, because I haven't needed a song because I have been working on this record with my friend.
And the songs for that record are all done.
Super done.
Okay.
Yeah. But then
We're
we
gonna talk
realized
about that in a minute. Yeah.
we realized that we needed one more song. That we didn't realize that until like a month ago. But I was like, well, I keep trying to write a song, but nothing's working 100%. And like now looking back at like the first couple EPs or records I put out, my gut was right back then, but I was like, well, I just got to put it out anyways. Yeah. But now I'm like, okay, take your time a little bit. Now you have a producer, like don't rush. Don't throw it out even if it's like 80% good, which is what these songs have been. Don't throw it out into the public.
Yeah.
So, but this one finally just felt right, and it was like a relief.
You kind of talked about it already, but I want to dig in a little here. Quite a progression in your process from song a day to now really taking your time with one song. And you kind of alluded to this, but you're getting better at your process. Your skills are developing. So now maybe you have a finer ear, or your inner critic is maybe taking a bigger part in your process, and that's why it is slowed down.
Yeah, but I think the inner critic isn't like this bully anymore, because I had this inner critic before I started writing that inhibited me from doing anything.
Right.
And that part is still there sometimes. But when it comes to, I feel like the 10,000 hours of songwriting finally kind of tampered down the bully aspect of the critic. And now I'm like, the critic works with my gut, where it's like this, there's kind of this respect I have more, like, I think for myself and for my craft, where now it's not like I'm trying to prove to other people or to myself that I'm good at it or something. Yeah. Now I'm just like, you've done it. You know you can do this.
It. Yeah.
So don't rush something and don't force it, but also don't not do anything. Like I could sit down and write a song a day, and I know I could, but I don't know if that would get the good stuff out. But what is good is like playing a little bit every day, writing down
the bits and pieces.
Yeah, like you never know. Like sometimes I'll overhear people say something and I'm like, that, I just write it down. I'm like, that's going in a song.
I want to talk about the way your songs come to you in the context of the variety of the sounds and styles of the songs you have written, because you've written songs that are kind of all over the board in terms of the format, the style that they are in. I hate to use the word genre. We're not going to use that, but just the sounds and
it's okay. You can do that.
I can use that word?
You can use it.
But so when these songs, ideas are coming to you, do they present themselves in these different styles and you just go with it? Or do you maybe have an idea and try it out in different styles to see what fits?
Good question. It kind of happens. I don't force it. So if it's a country song, boom, it is what it is. If it's a rock song, then bam, it's a rock song. But the thing that has also changed for me is I feel like the first 7 years of writing original music, I was finding my voice and also finding the genre or like the style that made the most sense. And I think a big part of that comes from the singing. And I feel like actually a big thing that Spencer, my producer, and I worked on, it felt like this, like the studio this winter felt like a therapy or something. We really like broke through some stuff where he was like, and this sounds, I'm not tooting, he wasn't tooting my horn and I'm not tooting it now. But he was like, because you can do a lot with your voice, you can do a lot of different styles, and you can do a lot of different, it's like the same thing with a guitarist. When a guitarist is really good, they could riff, they could do a bunch of different genres, they could do a bunch of stuff. But what makes someone like a memorable guitarist, like like a Blake Mills or a Julian Lage is like, they have their sound.
Right.
And it's varied, but it's consistent.
The tones, yes.
And so a thing that happened with the record I'm making now is I finally found my own voice. I feel like, because Spencer said something where he was like, I don't want it to sound like you're singing like a thing. I want it to sound like it's you being you.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's also just what happens in your 20s is like you're trying to figure out who you are. And I think that was happening in tandem with me figuring out my songwriting voice and my actual singing voice.
Yeah.
And so now I'm finally at this place with this record and like with the kind of songs I'm writing now, where it's like, now it's just me doing me.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's interesting. It's because you have these vocal skills that allow you to sing in all these different ways, allowed you to write these different kinds of songs, but maybe that made it more difficult to find what you have now found.
Yeah.
Right?
And you know, it doesn't like separate of the like the skill of singing all these different things. It was also like I was trying them out because I didn't, you know, I was like, oh, well, I can, why not?
See how
you
this
know,
goes.
just see how it goes. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you can't control what a song is going to be like. And you just I would let it go like super into folk or super into country or super into blues. But now it's like, and I have so much respect for all of those styles.
Yes.
I think like me kind of leaning into those styles was coming from a place of admiration and like, you know, I listen to all kinds of music. Like my favorite band is like a post-punk band, which you wouldn't guess, but like they're called Fontaines DC and I love them.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the style in which you are now?
I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So we're just going to have to wait and listen to hear it.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I look forward to that. We talk about that album maybe a little bit later. If it's all right with you, I want to talk about some of the songs you have released in the past. And we can talk about how those came about. I want to talk about the song Where's My Bike from your previous record.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites, I gotta tell you.
Thanks.
To me, it really showcases one facet of your lyrical style, your lyric writing, where you kind of sing these conversational lyrics like you are just talking off the top of your head, but they're witty. They're witty, and what I find great is that they sing so well, right? So when you talk about this song, maybe touch on how these kind of lyrics are coming together. Do you have to edit them to get them to sing so well, adding or subtracting words, that kind of thing? Or are they coming more fully formed? I mean, you have these vocal skills that probably enables you to sing wordy lyrics well, but how much effort is going into like the verses of this song where they sound like just sentences you just wrote down on a piece of paper, but they fit so well, right?
That's what happened. That song, I was back in my parents' they're now in an apartment. They downsized, and I was in their guest room, and I was out of college, you know, and I was like fresh out of a breakup, and I was like, oh shit. What am I doing? Like, and they had both left for work and I didn't have a job. I didn't have a show that day. And I was just sitting there and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And then the song just kind of fell out. And then I edited it a bit, but that song just kind of happened.
But you know what I'm getting at, where
it was a free flow.
It's not poetry, but you can sing it with the perfect cadence, even though the words are kind of random generated. When
one of my best friends from college, she was a writer in the workshop, so she was a grad student when I was a senior, and she gave me a poetry lesson and just one night over some beers, and I really took that to heart. And I think thinking of songwriting in that kind of style of like thinking of syllables.
Yes.
And also thinking, you know, like, oh, she told me like, well, a rhyme can be a near rhyme or a slant rhyme. And I was like, what the fuck is that? And then she told me and I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And that opened things up. And with that song, I was like, okay, the verses are really wordy, so maybe strip it down and let the chorus be super simple.
Right.
And yeah, that kind of songwriting style is very present still, like in my next record and like in this, even the song I wrote yesterday.
Yeah.
But there's a little, things are a pinch less wordy, and I'm thinking even more about what is fun to sing.
Yes.
Like thinking about like syllables and consonants and like, okay, like even like little things like singular versus plural.
Right.
Like, is the S at the end of the word going into the next one helpful, or is it actually harder to sing? Like little things like that.
So you hadn't maybe focused on this before, and now you're thinking about it more.
Yes, since that song.
Yes.
But like that, I feel like Where's My Bike is a great like starting point for when I was actually starting to find my voice.
Right.
Where I was like, oh, this free flow, like also kind of like cheeky kind of thing. I feel like sometimes it's good to lean into like super vulnerable, like sincere. Or I guess like to be silly is also very sincere.
Yeah.
But like this one was definitely like it's cheekily, woe is me.
Yeah.
My car is parked at the edge of my parents' lot, 'cause I basically live with them. My phone overheated on the seat 'cause I forgot to bring all my stuff in. But my friends don't talk to me much anymore, and I don't blame them. What do I have left to say about shit that be worth listening to?
Leading me to literally my very next question. When I think about your lyrics on some of these songs that I really like, I think there's a self-awareness that is maybe a key takeaway. There's kind of a knowing and an honesty there. And in my opinion, anyway, it allows you to be witty, but still feels honest, right?
Oh, thanks.
But that's kind of what you were talking about being cheeky, right?
Yeah, it's good. I feel like, not an issue, but like a thing I've noticed about a lot of songwriters right now, like especially ones on TikTok and stuff, it's like this desire to sound clever. And it's like, it can feel a little forced. And I think it's because it is. And it's like, you actually are so clever. Like to be able to have the guts and like to write a song, like, and to put yourself out there, like I'd like to think you do have that clever thing in you, you know, but you have to just like let it happen. With that song, I got lucky where like a lot of those words or like those lines were like clever, but like that just happened. But like
they were also true.
But they were true.
More or less, yes.
And that's a thing that this question you just asked has made me realize about the song I finally got to today or yesterday, is that I would get to a good place and then it would get forced. And so then it wasn't ready. But this song that I finally got to through honestly 8 bad songs, it finally wasn't forced. It all just happened. And the lines can be, you know, kind of witty, like the Where's My Bike ones. But also like that took time to develop. So I think a lot of these songwriters I'm thinking about right now who have these lyrics that maybe seem a little forced, it's because they're also developing their voices too.
Yes.
Like we don't all just wake up and write like or like, oh, I'm going to be the best songwriter ever. Like you don't just wake up and it happens unless you're like Bruce Springsteen. But even then, you know, he took a little time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of great songwriters, can we talk about Jonathan Richman for a second?
Oh, yeah.
You recorded a cover of his song, That Summer Feeling.
Yes.
I'm on record as saying this is one of the greatest songs ever written.
Oh, totally.
Isn't it great? Do you know Joby Riccio?
Yes.
I had her on the show, and she agrees with us, by the way.
Oh.
She recorded a summer song, and we ended up talking about this one, so she's on
She's great. She's so nice.
Yes. And you have your own summery song, Soft Serve. It kind of has that kind of vibe. Anyway, if you want to talk about the Jonathan Richman and why it's such a great song, feel free.
I was listening to that record, and that song came up, and it just made me feel so good. And it wasn't even about the lyrics. Like, it was just the vibe of it.
Yeah.
And then I like dug into the lyrics, and I was like, oh my God, these lyrics are so fucking good.
It's devastating.
And it's, I just kept listening to it over and over again. And then I was talking about it actually with Spencer, and I was like, oh man, it would be fun just to like record it casually. And so me and him and our friends Chet and Max and Jason, we met up at our friend's studio, and we had a half day, no overdubs. We're all just sitting in the same room, gently playing.
Yeah. That song
and literally
needs to be played gently.
And then the second take, bam, it was done.
That's great. And you did the long version. There's another version on one of his other records that's more compact, but you have all those
we
extra
did the like
verses in there.
6-minute version. But I love it. And it's that I feel like that song, it's about that summer feeling, and it totally exudes the feeling of summer.
Everything about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
When the cool of the pond makes you drop down on it, when the smell of the lawn makes you flop down on it, when the teenage car gets the cop down on it, that time is here for one more year, and that summer feeling's gonna haunt you one day in your life. You've forgotten what I'm naming. You're gonna long to claim it one day, 'cause that summer feeling's gonna haunt you one day in your life. Summer feeling, summer feeling. And if you wait until you're older, a sad resentment smolder one day, and then that summer feeling's gonna haunt you, and that summer feeling's gonna taunt you, and that summer feeling's gonna hurt you one day in your life.
Bucket list is to see him play one day.
He plays at Space here in Evanston sometimes, and I did it. It's worth it. You should do it.
He's pretty quirky.
He's so great. He still seems like he's 25 years old, by the way, which is amazing. Let's talk about a couple of more songs if we can. I'll talk about the Clown song.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking about your self-awareness allowing you to be witty. Here's a song that I really think kind of captures this in a way, because you're using these clown and circus references to keep the tone playful, but it's
pretty
heavy song, right? So I'm going to read these lyrics, but let me preface this by saying I love a good clown shoe reference. It's pretty good material to dive into. So I'm going to read this. It's not funny when I'm standing in these big shiny shoes. When I get out of here, I'm getting out of them and out of love with you. It's pretty good. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. You must have had a bit of fun writing this song, because it allowed you to use all these clown and circus references and tie them into this sad song.
Having a theme or like a jumping off point can be helpful with like imagery. And I feel like that song I really leaned in, and I was like, just stay in the circus type of thing, but not too much, but similar to Where's My Bike, where it's like introspective and like, oh wow, you know, Where's My Bike is about like, oh wow, I am in a rut and I can feel it. Like that's what's going on. And this one is like, you can fake it as much as you can, and like you can like put on this show of being okay, but there comes a point where like you turn around and like there's a storm, and it doesn't, like the storm's gonna come and it's gonna blow your tent away and the show's over.
Yeah.
And the being in love with is like being in love with the crowd and like being, you know, yeah, I feel like that song's when I look back and I'm like, dang, that good job.
So many pins I can juggle, so many tales I can spin. Atop the big top on the tightrope I struggle, fell into a puddle, sand in the clouds. Oh Lord, but you watched me try to balance million things on 10 tiny plates. Everything sipped over the tents, ripped off the stakes. My wig's gone with the wind, the rain, off the paint off my face.
I've actually played it live a couple times. Just because it's so slow and it can be kind of heavy. It's a good one to listen to recorded, but I feel like that one live, it's like womp womp womp.
I'm going to interrupt you because the first thing we were supposed to talk about on my list was your upcoming tour.
Oh,
We didn't do that.
That's okay.
So I'm going to now insert this discussion right here. You're coming in, well, you're doing a little touring now, but this will be coming out in early June, and you're going to be hitting the road. You want to talk about it?
Yeah. I'm playing just like a short run, going down to like Nashville, a couple other shows, Savannah, Georgia for a festival, a couple other shows, and then a big show in New York at a new venue called Nightclub 101, which is Baby's All Right, but it's like their new like smaller venue.
Okay.
And it's my first thing with like the full band.
Oh, nice.
Since November. So that's going to be really nice. We did South by, but that was just a couple like one-off things. So.
You're also playing the Evanston Folk Festival. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Right down the street here.
In August.
Early September.
One of those.
September. It's a month. Evanston Folk Festival, for our Midwest listeners, is awesome. They had the first one last year. They do such a great job. It was so delightful. Several stages on the lake. It really was a roaring success. Everyone loved it. They weren't sure if they were going to do another one, but everybody loved it so much they decided to do it again. So you're going to have a good time.
Great. And the lineup's awesome.
Yeah, and everyone should come see you play.
It'll be fun. Yeah, duo for that. Doing a lot of duo this year.
Yeah.
Save some money.
But some full band shows.
Only full band shows on the books are actually this little week thing in June.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything else is duo.
When it's duo, what is the other person?
My bandmate Gus.
Okay. Playing?
Guitar and bass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Back to another song. One more here, at least. Emotionally Available.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that one? This is a bit of a complex song. I want to talk about how a song like this comes together. And now I'm going to prove that I'm very bad at talking about how songs sound, but I'm going to make up some words.
Bet it's going to be great.
We'll see how it goes. First, you have this excellent groove that gets the song going. That's kind of the initial hook, is that groove. So at what point in the process does that come about? When you first conceive the song, are you hearing that, or is that something that is added later in the process?
Song like this is very groove heavy and groove focused.
Yes.
So that happened right off the bat.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where the song started, was just like
And you're playing the guitar.
Playing the guitar.
Yeah.
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 Which is also a way a song can often start for me, is the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the chords, and then I went to go play a certain chord and my pinky hit the wrong note, and then I was like, wait, that's cool.
Ah.
And that's how the chorus chords came to be.
Yeah. Now we're going to talk about this chorus. The groove gets a little darker in like the transition here. The chorus is this captivating kind of up and down drone vocal thing. This is where I'm doing a bad job. But it's sung over like one chord, right?
That's not a bad job. That's exactly what it is.
Well, thank you very much. But I'll put a clip in here so people can hear it for themselves. But how did you come up with that idea? I guess you just said about the chord, but to deliver the chorus in that really kind of surprising way, given the way the rest of the song is.
I think I wanted to not sound pretty. I think the lyrics are like the truth that you want to hear from someone, which isn't pretty, but it's needed.
Yeah, you kind of the way you present that chorus, you're kind of putting quotation marks around what this other person may or may not be saying, right?
Yeah, it's like the verses are about like kind of being seduced by someone and by the version of them that they want to show you, and it's very like sultry the way it's performed. Mm-hmm. But then it's like by the end of it, I'm saying like, well, if you can't do these things for me, just tell me. And then bam, the chorus is like this like ugly kind of like, I'm not emotionally available. Like that's literally the line where it's like, just tell me so I don't get led on. You know, I think a lot of people do that intentionally or unintentionally. And it usually comes from their own wounds flaring up, you know, wanting, or like they want to be ready, but they aren't. You know, post writing that song, I have still come across people who I've been with who are still that way, but it's often I'd like to think people are not maliciously, you know, deceiving you. They, you know, they're also deceiving themselves with like this like version that a version of themselves that they want to be but aren't yet.
In my head that tells me I am just another itch to scratch to pass the time to avoid the dark in your days. Well, turn me down if you do not have the decency to stay. I am not emotionally available, and I am not currently fully capable of new love.
So a complex song like this, you're piecing all this together at home with your guitar, maybe your keyboard, and it's pretty much what it is before you go to the studio. You don't need the studio to kind of put these. I mean, there's like flutes or what is in there?
Yeah,
Is it a flute?
Trombone.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're hearing that before you go to the studio, or is that kind of like experimentation in the
Sometimes
recording?
other people's parts I can hear in my head before, but other times it's like I just trust the people I play with to do something right.
Yeah.
But this new record I have,
Let's talk about the new record. Take this opportunity.
Sure.
Spencer Tweedy is the Spencer you referred to as your producer,
Yep.
part of the Chicago music scene. You have all the songs. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to make sure we spent some time talking about this.
No.
You have all the songs recorded
Yes.
or written. Are they recorded?
They're all recorded,
Yeah.
except for the one that we need to
this
hopefully
week's song.
this
Yes.
week's song. I think
Yes.
it's going to be on there. This was the first time, because he's my producer, where I sent him like a shit ton of songs, and then he picked his favorite ones.
Okay.
But then we actually dissected them and like cut things and added things and changed chords. And this is the first time I've really collaborated full on with someone, where some of the stuff wasn't written before the studio, or like we were adding lyrics in some things. One of the songs on the record, he was like, I really like the chorus from this song, and I really like the verses from this song, and they oddly enough are in the same key. What if we combined it?
Yeah.
And now that's the song.
This is, I don't think you've done any or very much co-writing in your career. Am I correct?
Not until now.
Okay.
Now I do it all the time.
You do now. But there's a certain amount of trust involved in a relationship that you entered into with Spencer as your producer, right? I mean, were you tentative in like opening yourself up to that kind of a process?
I was definitely anxious, but then it ended up being like the best thing that's ever happened to me in my craft, where I was like, oh wait, you can be completely yourself and be super vulnerable, and letting go of things and trusting someone else to do their job is going to make the thing you care about better.
Yeah. That's kind of a big realization to come to.
Yeah, big realization. A lot of pressure off my own shoulders for like feeling like what we're making is good.
Yeah. Because someone else is there to tell you that it's good.
Someone else is there to also not tell me it's good. You know, I really trust, I feel like Spencer is the perfect balance of being real and like saying, no, that's not it, but also being very sweet. And so when he says something is a good idea, I trust it because I know he's not bullshitting me.
Yeah.
Because I've also worked with a lot of people who are afraid to tell me something isn't good because I'm the boss.
Right.
Or I've had some people do it, but in like a way that's too harsh, where I'm like, okay, that was, you know, it gets to a boiling point and then it implodes. But like with Spencer, because of the way he is, it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Any idea when we might see the record? Is there a calendar yet?
No clue. Probably next year.
Will you be playing any of the songs?
Oh yeah.
On the tour that's coming up?
Yeah. The kind of the point of this tour is to try and get a label.
Okay.
So we have some label people coming out.
Some showcase shows. Yeah.
And so once a label is involved, we'll probably have more answers.
Yeah.
I think my booking agent is still wanting us to get out there and play this year, but hoping that with the label involved, we'll be a lot busier and the record will be out.
A full plan in place. Yeah.
Next year.
That's
probably.
great.
Yeah.
Well, Elizabeth, I know you have a 4-hour drive back, that 1.5 miles back to your home, and the traffic that you're going to encounter. So I appreciate you taking the time. I think we've taken enough of your time.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me at the amazing, what did you call it earlier?
The Epiplex.
The Epiplex. Thank you for having me at the Epiplex. I've been sufficiently entertained by the Epiplex golfers up here on the 50th floor.
They're actors, paid people. They keep going around in a circle. They change their shirts and come back again. This has been great. I hope to see you play on Sunday. That'll be in the past for people listening, but they should go see you on your tour this summer, New York and Evanston and everywhere else in between.
Oh, yeah. And then we are playing a couple shows with Iron and Wine in July.
In Viroqua, Wisconsin, I believe, one of them.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
I was just
where
last night.
Your daughter lives?
My daughter's there. It's a lovely town. You're going to really like it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm stoked. I've heard it's
a cool, artsy city. It's a small city.
Yeah, I've heard a friend of mine has a cabin up in Spring Lake?
Spring Green. Yeah, not far from there.
Yeah.
It's in the Driftless region.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
I wrote a song about the Driftless region. Maybe I'll come play it up there sometime for you.
Yeah. Yeah, at the what's the name of the open mic?
Grandpa's Open Mic, Glenview, Illinois, every Tuesday night.
There you go.
Hear my song, Shiftless in the Driftless.
Oh,
sometime.
Shiftless. I like that. That's fun.
Yeah. All right, we're going to leave it there. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you what.